is Joanna Dovin with What's the 412? We're here today to fill you in on what's going on in your city. Each show we cover Pittsburgh's top city news, connect you with our most influential leaders, and highlight one of Pittsburgh's 90 neighborhoods. Today, we will be talking about efforts to spur more neighborhood development. The Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh is the city's economic development agency committed to creating jobs, expanding the tax base, and improving the vitality of businesses and neighborhoods. The URA achieves this mission by assembling, preparing, and conveying sites for major mixed-use developments, and by providing a portfolio of programs that include financing for business relocation, housing construction and rehabilitation, and home purchases and improvements. Joining us today is Paul Svoboda, the URA's Director of Special Projects. Paul will talk to us about URA programs developed by the mayor that are ensuring that all neighborhoods experience Pittsburgh's third renaissance. And now, on to Marissa Doyle for the city's latest news. Marissa?
Thanks, Joanna. Today's top city news highlights 3 exciting new programs recently launched by Mayor Luke Ravenstahl under his successful Serve PGH initiative: Promise Coaches, Cool Roofs, and Edible Gardens. All 3 engage community volunteers to help make Pittsburgh an even more livable city for everyone. More information on these programs and Serve PGH's other initiatives can be found at pittsburghpa.gov/servepgh. Promise Coaches is a unique program that equips adults with the necessary tools and information to help navigate and mentor students through high school and on to higher education. This new program builds off the success of the Pittsburgh Promise, which provides up to $40,000 in scholarship funds and has helped nearly 3,800 Pittsburgh students pursue higher education to date, with hundreds more becoming Promise ready every year. Cool Roofs will help the city's buildings become even more sustainable and energy efficient. Thanks to the new program, Public Works employees will work with volunteers to coat city-owned buildings with white reflective paint, which will reduce internal building temperatures by 30% and reduce CO2 emissions. Edible Gardens will engage volunteers to improve access to healthy foods in more than a dozen low-income city neighborhoods where access to food produce markets is scarce. Community members will have the opportunity to help design, plant, and harvest edible garden sites throughout the city. This program, which is an expansion of the Mayor's Green Up program, is anticipated to produce nearly 1 ton of produce for at least 200 families. Applications are being accepted now, so to apply for Edible Gardens or to learn more about Cool Roofs and Promise Coaches, visit pittsburghpa.gov/servepgh. Back to you, Joanna.
And joining us today is Paul Svoboda, the URA's Director of Special Projects. Paul, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So tell us about the URA. It stands for Urban Redevelopment Authority, and you're a city agency. So how does the governing work with the URAs compared to it being a city agency?
Right, well, we're actually the first urban redevelopment authority in the entire nation. We were created back in the days of David Lawrence when the city was really experiencing a boom, but it was seeing some challenges coming its way. It knew that the industrialization wasn't a model for the future. It had smoky skies, and everyone knows that story of Pittsburgh. And so really the URA was created to craft the future for the city. And it did that from its get-go, and we've learned a lot of lessons from that past, and we're executing them today.
From the neighborhood perspective and ensuring that all neighborhoods see development, the URA is there 100% of the way. Tell us what the URA is doing in some neighborhoods to make sure that this third renaissance is reaching all communities. Take us maybe to East Liberty.
Sure. I mean, that's the really exciting thing that the mayor laid out for us, was a challenge to really put the investment all the way through every neighborhood in the city, not just downtown or not just in a particular neighborhoods that get a lot of press like East Liberty. And so that's really a challenge that we've thrived on the last few years. Some of our unsung heroes in our staff really take the challenge seriously and have done just that. The East Liberty story is one that's, I think, instructive for the entire city, because East Liberty didn't snap its fingers and become East Liberty overnight. Of course, East Liberty back in the 1950s was the state's third highest grossing commercial district.
Wow.
Only third to downtown Philadelphia and downtown Pittsburgh. So it really had a place on the map. The thing that happened to East Liberty happened to a lot of communities, the urban flight to the suburbs, and then, of course, our predecessors at the URA had engaged in an urban renewal project that really set East Liberty back many, many years. So we struggled, I think, in East Liberty, and even when I moved here in 1993, it was a place that most folks didn't want to go, or were scared to, or had all sorts of perceptions about. Those perceptions began to shift once planning and community engagement got underway there, and that's the thing that the mayor's really charged us with implementing throughout the city, making sure that there's a community plan and community engagement and the resources to make things happen. And I think everyone knows the story of East Liberty and how we've made things happen there in the 15 years since we've been doing this. But that's 15 years, that's not overnight. And the good thing about what the mayor's done is he's put a lot more resources in play. So I think neighborhoods will be able to experience change that they want, that they've asked for, a lot faster than 15 years. But East Liberty is where we are today because we made patient, targeted investments, and we're reaping the benefits today. It's exciting. It's really exciting.
The hardest part about getting neighborhoods to turn around is really finding the financing to develop properties, to acquire properties, and the URA plays a major role. So in East Liberty, the Bakery Square project, so that was a former bakery that sat vacant. And to get a developer to come in and renew it, you have to close those financing gaps. And I think that's one of the URA's major roles is getting the resources, and really when the mayor gets behind a project, you can marshal more resources from the city, from the state, from the federal government.
That's right.
So talk about Bakery Square, because what's happening there with Google, and then you're gonna have Bakery Square 2.0 is you're seeing, one development spur, millions of more dollars in investment.
Yeah, Bakery Square is a great story. But again, it has a whole backstory that folks don't necessarily appreciate until you really connect the dots for them. The things that are happening there are in large part because we had a developer who was part fearless, part believed in the city, and part knew that his strategy was in line with the mayor's strategy, and so there was a belief that his investment was a risk worth taking. But that risk was one that would have looked astronomical just years before they actually made it, when you had what became East Side as a vacant industrial supply storage facility and a taxi stand. This is not a place that people thought of as a place ripe for investment. And so really it was the patient targeted investment that led up to Bakery Square happening and Target happening as well. But Bakery Square is really an exciting story because we used all the tools in our toolbox. I mean, we used TIF, tax increment financing. That's basically the tool that allows you to finance based on future development value. So if today I have vacant land, it's worth not much, and I put $1 million building on it, well, that generates some tax value for the city. And for 20 years, you take that value that you create, and you can make a loan based on that future value today. It's an incredibly creative tool that actually Pittsburgh uses with expertise that's unmatched nationwide. But TIF was a major tool there, and that was a struggle to get that one passed. But I think we're all glad we did. We had resources from the state. We had resources to build that garage that went behind it. And the great thing today is that we're looking at Bakery Square 2. That's the expansion. That's the second phase of Bakery Square that really is going to be made possible because, in part, we made a big infrastructure investment in that garage, and in part because the demand is just outstripping supply in exciting ways, because the university district needs room to expand. And the collaboration that the mayor's entered into with the universities and the entrepreneurial community, the tech sector, the Power Up Pittsburgh initiative, all that plays a role in forming the future of what Bakery 2 is going to be. And I think everyone, including the federal government, who invested $2 million in the infrastructure for Bakery 2, is incredibly excited about what our prospects for that development are.
Especially in this competitive economic climate where
That's right.
more governments are competing for more federal funds than ever before. We were successful, the mayor was successful in getting the public infrastructure grant from the government to make Bakery Square 2 successful. So it will be happening soon. When will ground be breaking on Bakery Square 2? And let me just mention Google, which is in Bakery Square 1, expanded recently from 2 employees to 150, and now they're expanding even more.
That's right.
It's just so exciting.
It is. It's incredible. And just recently they announced that the Software Engineering Institute was going to be taking space at Bakery Square and filling out, fully leasing out the space entirely there, which is just amazing when you think back to people looking at the developer saying, you're going to take on that behemoth of a building. And sure enough, the mayor always had the belief and again was able to marshal resources for it. The developer had the belief and the university community came to the fore there as well. And it was just a great collaboration. And the mayor's been able to secure funding for the East Liberty Transit Center, which a lot of people look at transit and don't see how it connects the dots. But the transit center there sees 38,000 people go through it every day. Those are people getting to their jobs, getting to their homes, and that's going to be a major investment that's going to set the stage for other development.
And that transit center is located right by the new Target.
That's right.
In what is now called the Martin Luther King
East Busway.
East Busway.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. And that investment.
That's going to be rebuilt?
That's going to be completely rebuilt with a $15 million grant that the mayor played an instrumental role in securing from the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Transportation. We had great federal engagement with Senator Casey and Congressman Doyle, and it was bipartisan. Even Senator Toomey, was supportive of that. And really that's an exciting development because that transit center improvement is going to set the stage for what's called a TOD, a transit-oriented development. That's going to take place right across the street from Target. So you're going to have Penn Avenue go from what was an urban renewal project of basically a highway, four lanes all going the same way, 50 miles an hour right around East Liberty to really a neighborhood feel, a neighborhood development where people are walking and getting their crepes at a little French restaurant, and they're going up to Target and doing their shopping, and they're going to have more opportunity to do that with the transit-oriented development.
It's creating that quality of life that you can't find in Cranberry.
Exactly. Yeah. That's right. It's a walkable community. It's a community that's integrated and has all sorts of opportunities for you to. We always use that live, work, play, but certainly that's the case in East Liberty, and that's the thing that people are reacting to when they're moving into Pittsburgh and growing the population in Pittsburgh.
So East Liberty has made it. We'll say it's made it, and it's on its way to making
Certainly
it even
on its
more.
way. That's right.
How can we ensure that this development that's happening in East Liberty spreads to more communities? Take us to Homewood, Larimer. What's the URA doing in those communities right now?
It's really exciting time for those communities also because I've been involved in the Larimer planning exercise for many years. I was there from the outset when the mayor and your own were on the ground saying, okay, this is the next frontier. We've got to do something here. It's 70% vacant, and the people here have carried the freight for so long. It's not fair that they don't see the benefit. And so really the exercise that we engaged with the community at first was met, I think, with disbelief. You're really going to invest in our neighborhood, and absolutely the answer has been yes, yes, yes for years now. And we're at the position, because of the success of East Liberty in part, that we're able to push that investment and that market condition into Larimer, where people, for the first time in years, are thinking about building and thinking about developing and thinking about buying a home. And that's something that, again, people just years ago would have thought wasn't in the cards, wasn't possible. The same goes for Homewood. Homewood seeing a new energized development community that sees it as a frontier that's worth taking on. I think when we released the request for proposals for the development in Homewood, we never thought we'd get such an enthusiastic response, and we did. And the group that was chosen was Oxford Development in part, a partnership that includes them and S&A Homes, two major players in the development community. And I don't think people would have thought that they would have been interested just a couple of years ago, but in fact they are. And a lot of that has to do with the strategy that's in place and that they know is a secure and steadfast one under this mayor. They know they're going to have his backing when they come to identify what the public infrastructure they need to make their development happen. They know that he's got their back. And that's a strong force in development. They need to know that the strategies that are in place are going to be there and are going to be backing them when they take things on. So I think it's a great day for Homewood. And the best part about it is we don't just go in there as the URA to make an investment. We also have not only the community engagement, we have all the departments in the city engaged, which is a great part of this renaissance is that we're seeing the Department of Public Works and Tree Vitalize and all these other things that the city's got at its disposal are all focused, all have their resources honed in on this one strategy of making these investments out into the neighborhoods in a coordinated way. So
some neighborhoods aren't ready for a Target or Bakery Square, but
right.
But at Homewood and Larimer, you have a lot of vacant land. You still have dilapidated houses. So
sure.
We have the Bureau of Building Inspection coming in and making serious demolition
citations and demolition, and sure, yeah.
I know that we just took down about 10 homes in what was known as the Killing Fields area of Homewood, which is one of the most dangerous areas.
That's right.
So then you have this vacant land, and now we're going in and we're greening it.
That's right.
We're making community gardens, and we're collaborating with the neighborhoods to do that. And then the URA comes in and says, okay, we're going to acquire strategic properties, and we're going to create development opportunities here. And now you're seeing Oxford Development show interest in Homewood. And you could probably say, Paul, that there hasn't been investment in Homewood to that degree in 30 years?
At least. And the thing that's so great also is that the mayor hasn't taken the tact, as previous administrations have, to say, this is the development we're going to do, we know what's best for you, and we're just going to do it. This is a strategy that's flipped that paradigm on its head. And he says, listen, you tell me what you need, and I'm here with the resources to invest. And that's completely turned the conversation around. And I think it's exciting. We have, like you say, opportunities in Homewood that the community is going to be engaged with. They're already seeing the benefit from the demolition of a really dangerous eyesore. And so I think the future is bright.
So we've been at the East End here talking Homewood, East Liberty, and there's so many other neighborhoods, and there's so many other things you guys are doing, and we could talk for hours. One thing that comes to mind is the Garden Theater block in the Central North Side, where in 2007 the mayor stood and said, the URA is going to acquire, I think it was 17 parcels of property that were vacant, and we're going to begin the process of redeveloping the Garden Theater block. The Garden Theater, everybody knows the infamous Garden Theater, sort of the sign of blight in that neighborhood. So 5 years later, what's happening there?
Well, I mean, the mayor really turned up the dial on that neighborhood. There's so many investments going on right there, and so much that's on the verge of happening that again, we see the future as being very bright for the Central North Side. And again, this is where the community is really engaged in the conversation. And what we saw on the Garden Theater block is one thing, but the off-site investment as well is made possible because folks have a confidence, again, that when you're focused on the thing that's really detracting from the neighborhood, these other investments can start to happen. So the Federal Hill neighborhood development, the residential development, went through its first phase and was so quickly bought up. They had a waiting list for the second phase that got underway pretty quickly.
Those are new homes right
Those are
next
new
to the
homes,
Garden
new
Theater.
townhomes, right, just across Federal Street, and just really incredible. The Carnegie Library made an investment there in their property, and really the Garden Theater block, I think the mayor did a great thing, which was, again, to really put a focus on the legal aspect of that. Got that resolved. That was always the thing that was holding it up. He saw that as the central
Acquiring
focus.
the property. It's never easy to acquire properties from.
That's
that
right.
The problem is property sits vacant for so many years to figure out who owns it.
That's right.
The owner could be in Florida and just be sitting on it and not wanting to do anything because they're waiting for a better opportunity. It's really difficult sometimes to acquire those properties. We were able to do that.
That's absolutely
So we're going to
right.
have, I think, 4 new restaurants coming in that area. Nakama,
That's amazing.
Nakama, which everyone loves.
And there's already a cafe, Crazy Mocha, that opened up there, and that that happened before this development even happened, because again, knowing what the future is and having some certainty over that really makes the private market able to invest, and the mayor's made sure that the private market knows market-driven strategies are really important to this administration, and it's only when you listen to what that market is saying that you make the right decisions.
It's just a phenomenal story.
It's great.
So there are so many other neighborhoods that we could talk about. Let's talk about some residential projects you guys are working on. Take us to the South Hills area, maybe.
Yeah. South Hills, another really, really amazing story. South Hills High School was a vacant property. It had been vacant for 20 years. The URA partnered with the school district to put that through a process to ask the development community, what have you got? What can you do with this?
And the vacant schools are going to be something that we're dealing with now.
We're going to continue to deal with those.
Reisenstein is going to be Bakery Square too. So how can the URA make sure these vacant schools don't turn into just blighted pieces of property, but we repurpose them?
Right, so. Exactly. And so the South Hills High School we put out to the market, and the market responded, and we got a really great team that turned the South Hills High School into 120 odd units of mixed rate senior housing, and now it's this vibrant place, this beautiful place that's really helping property values stabilize, and not only stabilize but actually increase. Mm-hmm. And so what people had seen as an eyesore and what it was taking down their property value is now an asset in the community. Mm-hmm. And it's really a beautiful renovation, something that I think people are proud to live in. There's a waiting list, so I certainly think that speaks to it. And not only that, but the community has asked the same developer, hey, we've got this other school right up the street. Do you mind taking a look at it? And now they're engaged in the Prospect School rehab. And that's going to be, well, all signs point to a great success again. So I think once you get the community involved and behind a strategy that's the right strategy, I think amazing things can happen. And we're seeing that in places like Beachview as well, where we made a major investment in a grocery store. And that grocery store has really changed the perception of what that block of Broadway Avenue is. And we're seeing investments we make in Sheridan turn around declining home values. The list goes on and on. We've made investments in Brighton Heights and Marshall Shadeland and just so many communities. Actually, when you make a map, we did this as an exercise, we made a map of what the different investments by the URA are throughout the city. It almost covers the map with dots. It's just incredible where we put our investment. And oftentimes it's not what people think. They see the thing that makes the press, the downtown development or the East Liberty development or something at Southside Works. But what doesn't make the press, kind of our unsung heroes that I talked about earlier, are these investments you make in people in their homes. Mm. Whether they need a new roof, they need to renovate, they need to do any number of things that make their lives better. We make that investment. And that doesn't make the press, but certainly makes someone's life a lot better. And that's a big part of what we do that we take a great deal of pride in. The storefront renovation program is a great story because, the mayor really saw that the Main Streets program had a really robust storefront program, but it wasn't one that you could use all over the place. You only could use it in limited places for a very strict had a strict set of guidelines. And the mayor wanted to see benefit in other neighborhoods that weren't strict Main Street districts. And so we created this program, and we've really been able to make investments where it's had an impact. Targeted investments, smart investments, but investments that get leveraged by private investment. They're matching grants, so we don't just provide a grant, it gets matched by the business owner. And we're really seeing turnaround in places that are little. They're not the big districts that everyone thinks of, but they're really impactful. They really change the perception of a district into a place that has some buzz around it. And that's been exciting, I think.
So for a small business owner who you're just getting started, or maybe you've been there for a while and you want to market your business, your location, the city is helping you to redo your storefront.
That's right.
And I know that we have a map that we're going to show that shows all of the storefront renovations projects that have happened. One of the things that's interesting to me is I can tell you some of my favorite restaurants. When I go there, And then I go to work and I'm like, I wonder how they got their storefront so beautiful. And it was because of this program. So
Yeah.
look at NOLA and Market Square.
That's right.
Salt of the Earth, Kevin Sousa's place, and is that in Garfield?
Yep.
Made possible by the URA, and
That's
people
right.
don't know that. But
Now,
I think
usually we have a
it's pretty
little
cool.
sticker maybe up by the front door, but we don't often have. It's not heralded as well as it probably should be, I guess. But
I think other
exciting.
great things that the URA is doing is sort of, so we talked about storefront renovations, but things like street banners for business districts.
yeah,
Community groups who really want to market their district, or providing street banners in places like Highland Park on Bryant
Yeah.
Street. Allentown has seen investment recently, so that's really great.
you have these little treasures and these little, kind of golden nuggets in these districts, and sometimes it just takes a little investment to make all the difference, and just to let those business owners know we're paying attention. We notice the investment they've made, the sweat equity they've put into their own business, and it's a way to really just add a little bit of buzz, a little something that changes the perception, and a lot of times that's all it takes.
That's true. Before you go, one of the main topics, at least in the news media, has been the Buncher development, the proposed development in the Strip District. And I know that you're one of the key stakeholders from the city on that project, so you know a lot about it. And we're hearing a lot from Councilman Dowd about how it's not a good deal, and how it does not correlate with the mayor's Allegheny Riverfront master plan. So just want you to set the record straight. Tell us about this proposed development, Buncher development,
Sure.
and what it really would mean for the city and for the Strip District.
Yeah, I think the city, is looking at something that could be really exciting. We need some things to make that happen. We need good zoning, and we need public infrastructure money to make that happen. And those two things are provided through this SP zoning, the Special Planning District zoning.
Let me just pause you.
Yeah.
So when you go to the Strip District today,
Sure.
And maybe residents at home haven't been there in a while, but a lot of people do go there now
Yeah.
because it's a great business district.
Yep.
You do not get an experience with the riverfront.
No, there's really no way.
And
to
the mayor
interact
created
with it.
the Allegheny Master Plan 3 years ago was complete to develop the process for ensuring that we can reconnect our neighborhoods with the riverfront. It's a great natural asset. And this Buncher project is one of the first developments that will bring the neighborhood in with the river, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Well, unless you count Donzi's, and of course you had to walk through an entire sea of parking to get to even that
Okay,
experience.
That's the nightclub, right?
That was
Okay.
the
That's
nightclub.
before my time.
Of course it is. But a lot of Pittsburghers will remember that, and that was really the only way you can engage with the river. And that's an opportunity lost, and I think the mayor recognized that, and that's why he laid out this vision for engaging the riverfront. And one thing that we've maybe been spoiled with is we've had a lot of these developments that have been our ownership, the URA.
Who owns this property?
Well, the Buncher Company owns all 55 acres except for the produce terminal, which we own. So really, we've been able to define the future entirely. We've never
Like
had
Southside Works.
Sure,
was
Southside
URA
Works,
owned.
Washington's Landing,
URA
any
owned,
number.
okay.
But this is right next to our downtown, and it's not owned by us. So when the developer came to us and the mayor was able to
Engage him.
engage them, they were really able to show them the benefit of having additional riverfront above and beyond what's required by law. And they were really able to show them the benefit of what it would mean to invest in residential, really create a neighborhood there. And if we invest in residential, that's really going to benefit. It's going to be the benefit of all the businesses on Smallman and Penn who
Because
have
retail
people
follows
who live
rooftops,
there,
yes.
people who live there 24/7 rather than just come on a that special Saturday or Sunday. Or it's really going to make it a destination that's even better than it is today if we can imagine that. And so I think what we've got is the opportunity that we don't want to risk throwing the baby out with the bathwater. We've got maybe a couple of people who have taking issue with a dimension on the drawing here, or have taken issue with the parking restrictor that lets the trash trucks and the fire trucks and the and the moving vehicles come in to make deliveries to the residential buildings. But these things shouldn't stop what's really going to be a great development that has urban density, that engages the riverfront in an amazing way. I can't think of any reason we'd want to put a stop to that. If we do, and the zoning doesn't get passed on December 24th like it has to, we're going to have a lump of coal in our stocking on Christmas, unfortunately, and Pittsburgh's really going to have an opportunity lost, where the Buncher Company will be able to build with urban industrial district, which isn't, I think, it's just what it sounds like, urban industrial, and it's not the kind of riverfront that any of us really want.
So they want to, and we want them to, change the zoning. And for residents who don't know, in order to build in a particular way, you have to have the proper zoning.
Yeah, it requires you to have a certain design standard. It requires you to have certain setbacks so that you have real city streets with sidewalks and trees and lighting.
Right now, it's back in the day, it's all industry there because we had the steel mills and barges and all that. And they're still barges, they're still steel, but that's not the main source of our economy anymore.
Right. Yeah.
So we want to, make that place something that we can all use and benefit from.
Yeah.
And also spur more residential
development and
that's
residential
important.
living. Yeah, urban residential is just hitting its stride right now in the city. We're not used to thinking about people really wanting to pay good money to live on our riverfronts, but that's where we are today, and the mayor saw that, and that's why he negotiated with the Buncher Company to build residential right on our riverfronts, just like the Allegheny Riverfront Master Plan calls for. In fact, if you set the two standards side by side, the Allegheny Riverfront Master Plan, designed by one of the area's best architects, right next to what was designed by the Buncher Company's architect, again, one of the best architects in the region, who also designed the Children's Hospital up in Lawrenceville. You see that they're almost identical. There's very little difference, and I think it's the right plan. I think it brings us exactly what we want. We can squabble about a couple of the details. That's fine. There'll be, every time that the Buncher Company wants to build a new building, they have to come through a public process. It's called a final land development plan. They'll have to come in front of everyone, prove that what they're building is aligned with what they proposed. And we can squabble about details then too, but it shouldn't stop us from doing what's right for the city.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks.
Will you join us again sometime soon? Because we could talk for
Just ask.
a couple more hours here, but we don't have the time, unfortunately. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Joanna.
Now it's time for our Renaissance Roundup segment. As we all know, Pittsburgh is a city of neighborhoods. So each show we will highlight one of our city's 90 neighborhoods and demonstrate how Pittsburgh's third Renaissance is making their way to these communities. Today, we are featuring Carrick. Carrick is a South Hills neighborhood known for its family-oriented community and convenient location. This hilltop neighborhood sits just 10 minutes from downtown and boasts affordable housing and a vibrant business district. Over the past year, community members and officials have taken a greater hand in improving the Carrick neighborhood. It's the strong camaraderie and sense of neighbors helping neighbors that led Mayor Ravenstahl to announce his new Block Watch in a Box initiative at Phillips Park. In just the past year alone, 5 new block watches were formed by Carrick residents in an effort to protect their families and keep their neighborhoods safer. Phillips Park also received some cleaning and greening attention this year when almost 12 trees were planted and the park's rec center underwent renovations. The highly used rec center offers programming and services for residents of all ages and now has a brand new fitness center and gaming room, new flooring in the gym, air conditioning, and new paint. Last month, the mayor announced that Carrick is one of 12 city neighborhoods to receive a Neighborhood Renaissance Fund grant, which provides resources for community groups to create and carry out development vision plans, helping to ensure their growth and success. Carrick's Economic Development South received $50,000 to create and plan for a destination dairy district on Brownsville Road. Coulter Yawn Dairy is the only operating dairy remaining in the city, and the grant money will help revitalize the blocks around the dairy to spur additional investment and development. With its strong community of neighbors, multiple thriving business districts and streets, Pittsburgh's third renaissance is certainly being felt in Carrick. This has been What's the 412? Be sure to check in next time to hear top stories about what's happening in your city.